I'm sure pretty much everyone who's ever been a kid remembers these things as, well, instruments of torture. That thing that always kept you glued to the kitchen table until you finished every last one. To the point where you're almost considering bringing in a UN mandate just to be able to leave the dinner table. Well, we're here to tell you that everything green does not need to be a monster. In fact, you can turn these little beauties into something absolutely delicious. So stick around as we give our old friends broccoli and Brussels sprouts a little bit of a Cinderella story. Welcome to Cooking from Scratch. It's Melissa, and today we're going to show you guys how to turn these things green into something that is divine. So to start us off, what we're going to need is salt, pepper, olive oil, lemon, red pepper flake, and of course our old friend bacon. Because of course bacon makes everything better. So if you're ready to bring back something green into your life, grab yourself your favorite drink, crank up that music, and let's get cooking. Okay, so we're gonna start with every kid's most love to hate vegetable, broccoli. So to get us started, you're gonna wanna preheat your oven to a blistering 425 degrees. And the reason for that is broccoli's a delicate flower. She likes to be cooked a very specific way. Low and slow does not work for this diva. We need high heat and we need fast. So to start, we're gonna need to take this little thing down into nice little edible bites. So if this is your first time using a chef's knife or you've used a chef's knife before, I'm gonna show you a little trick to give you a lot more control over this little bad boy. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna take your thumb and your first finger and you're gonna wanna pinch right where the blade meets the handle. Then take your last fingers and wrap it around the handle. Now I know, and I face this too, it's hard to break that habit of putting your finger on the top of the blade. And thanks to Alton Brown, I've been able to kick this habit. And the reason for this is you think that holding it this way gives you more control over the tip. It actually doesn't, because this finger can slip all over creation, which will knock the knife in places you don't want a knife to go. So give yourself some time, try it out if you haven't tried it. Pinch and grab. Now, the first misconception that a lot of people have when they're cooking broccoli is that the only good pieces are the little flour pieces on top. That's not actually true. Not only is there a lot of good nutrients in the stems, but also if you roast them, they can be pretty damn delicious. So we're gonna cut this down into some nice bite-sized pieces. So we'll take this into the little florets. And as you can see, I'm cutting around the base of the stem. Then, once you get to that tricky top part, we're actually going to lop the top part completely off. And then just continue making florets. Now, with the remaining stem, we're actually going to slice this into ribbons. They don't have to be uniform, they just have to be bite-sized. And with our larger florets, we're actually going to cut these in half. Now that we have a good assortment of broccoli, we're gonna put all of this into a bowl. And now here comes my favorite part. Take yourself some good quality olive oil. You can get the kind that's flavored. This one is actually Meyer lemon infused, which I love with broccoli because acid flavors just bring out a lot of the sweetness that's inherently in broccoli that a lot of times we miss. Pour yourself a couple of good glugs over your broccoli. And now get ready to get your hands dirty. Not only is this really soothing, but olive oil is actually really good for your skin. All right, once the broccoli's good and coated, take a good amount of salt and pepper. Give this a good toss. You don't need to toss it this much. I'm just trying to get some good shots in. Now we take a cookie sheet and some parchment paper. By the way, for those of you guys who are like me who hate to clean up, this thing is a godsend in the kitchen. You can put it under anything you're going to bake, roast, whatever, not sponsored, and it keeps everything from sticking to the bottom. Plus, you can just throw it away. Lay this out on the cookie sheet, then we add our broccoli. Oh god, it looks so pretty right now. We're not even done. Spread out the broccoli so they're not touching as much as possible. And then put this in the oven for about 15 to 18 minutes. Depending on the size in which you cut this, you might want to leave it go a little bit longer or a little bit shorter. Once things start to brown, it's done. So why does broccoli love being roasted? Well, it's all in the chemicals and the compounds that sit underneath the skin of the broccoli. You'll notice the second you start to cook broccoli in whatever method, it turns a beautiful green, but quickly that green turns to brown depending on the method of cooking. What's happening is, because this is a because it's one of those kind of vegetables, there are some sulfur compounds that can get out. And let me tell you, the second they do, you feel like you're eating gym sock. So that's why we go with the fast and the hot. That way we make sure that we cook this, plus give it a nice crispy edge, which God I love, without letting that sulfur take over and ruin the dish. All right, moving on to our next vegetable, let's tackle the Brussels sprouts. Now, like its friends broccoli, Brussels sprouts also love the high and the fast heat. So we're gonna treat that much the same. However, this is where Brussels sprouts can go pretty wrong pretty fast. Most of the time when you see Brussels sprouts cooked, they're either left whole or they're cut in half, which looks beautiful on the plate. The problem is what it's holding inside. Now, just like our friend broccoli, Brussels sprouts has some things it needs to get rid of, and it's all that sulfur compound. The problem is these leaves are so tight that if you try to roast them whole or roast them in half, it's keeping all those compounds that you don't want inside. So we're gonna let those out and make it a little bit crispy, and here's how. Take your chef's knife, take your willing victim, and we're going to shred these. So if it's looking like coleslaw, you're doing it right. Get all the way to about the bottom and you can toss the rest. Now, you can either leave these in the whole circles like this, or you can cut them in half. This ensures that we let all of those bad flavors out and keep the good ones in. So with these Brussels sprouts, we're gonna be adding everyone's favorite ingredient, bacon. Now, a handy trick with bacon is actually put it into the freezer for about 30 minutes before you start cutting it. What it does is it solidifies the fat a little bit, so it makes it easier for your knife to get through. So we're gonna take our 6 slices of bacon and we're gonna slice them into what's known in France as lardons. Basically, that's just a big fancy word for matchsticks. As you start to get to the end, you'll notice that your ratio of fat to meat is starting to lean a lot more towards fat. Don't worry, keep cutting, because we're going to use this fat as our cooking fat. Hey, I said you guys were gonna get vitamins out of this. I did not promise that it would be low calorie. Now that we have our bacon ready, we're gonna put it into a pan. Make sure the pan is on cold. We wanna start this cold and then raise the temperature so that way we render out a lot of that fat. Once a good amount of fat has rendered out of the bacon and it's just starting to turn brown, add your Brussels sprouts to the pan and give them a good coat in the bacon fat. Add salt, pepper, and a generous amount of red pepper flake. Crank the heat on high and crisp until golden brown. Once the edges of the Brussels sprouts are brown a little bit crispy, you're all done. And there you have it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you do make it at home, please take a picture and tag me. Plus, if you happen to have any tips or tricks on how you guys like to make vegetables, please put them below. It's so much fun seeing your guys' recommendations and trying them out. If you enjoyed this and would like to get the next video into your playlist, click that subscribe button down there. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next episode.